name is David.
I'm Sheryl.
Welcome to our little show. And one of the things that's popped up that we've been talking about is this idea of there's this gray area right now. And within the gray area, there's all these like semblance of truth. Like all these things are somewhat closely right or somewhat close to each other. What we're starting to recognize and observe is that you have these two kind of factions that are like, for example, people that wear masks, people that don't wear masks. And they just fight it out. Both sides think they're right. And we're starting to lose perspective because people are starting to put ridiculous things like I just shared with Sheryl today, that if you're not wearing a mask, then you're against, the LBG community, you're a racist, you're a Republican, you're all these just different things, you're unpatriotic, you're all this stuff. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. We all have a choice. We're in a free country, supposedly.
I think we've just been talking about too how absurd everything's getting, and this also is regardless what side you're on. Like if you look at the different states, even the way the different countries are handling everything, it's all different. Some more absurd than others. So definitely look outside. Whether you think your present environment is absurd or not, like also look outside your present environment, because
Right.
It's just going to show you that different environments, different states, different counties, different countries are all handling it differently. So just the mere fact of looking at the variation on how this is all being handled should in itself point out the absurdity of it all. And then in that, because it is very varied, we want to go back to hold on to your own beliefs while you still got them, and while you're still entitled to them. Hold on to your own beliefs and your gut, like right now more than ever, what you believe to be true, because depending on what you read, depending on what country or state you look at, it's all being handled differently.
Absolutely. And two things. Let's stop looking at the negative aspect. People die. People die every day. It's awful. Yes, people get this virus and they're older and some are younger, whatever the age range is, and they pass away. But the positive is that 99.57% of people survive. That's 99.57% of people in America survive from this virus. So that's important. That's important for us to focus on rather than what may or may not happen, these assumptions that we're making. And then one last thing to get back to Sheryl's point is, can someone please explain to me why the Wisconsin Supreme Court said that to shut down the state is illegal, so they just opened the darn state up? And us in California, why isn't our Supreme Court stepping in right now to open up our state when we really have a death rate of 0.0061%?
The quarantine was to flatten the curve. The quarantine was so hospitals weren't overwhelmed. The quarantine was to buy a little bit of time so we could do a little bit more research on this virus and see how to best treat it. As far as I understand, that has been handled, and it's now looking more and more like, okay, now we're actually quarantined until we find a cure or find a vaccine, and that just seems different than what was originally presented to us. And I also want to say that just the mere fact that it's so two-sided, I'm right, you're wrong, or whatever it is, just leads itself to say that we don't know and that we are being misled in some way, because if we were being brought the truth, it would all be pretty straightforward. So just the mere fact that this is such a two-sided argument lends itself to something's awry here.
100%. And my last point that I want to make, as far as your immune system is concerned, touching your hands, touching another human being, hugging another human being, that type of stuff that supposedly we can't do right now, actually builds your immune system up. The mere fact of hugging another human being, touching them with our hands, being affectionate with somebody actually strengthens your immune system. So, by us being locked into a quarantine all day, by the time that we get outside, our immune systems are naturally going to be lower. So what's going to happen? The rates of people...
The second wave.
are going to go up, supposedly. So let's try to be fair. Let's try to stay in a place of fairness and not jump on sides, Democrat, Republican, or vaxxers or non-vaxxers. Those are all extremes. Let's deal with what we're talking about, which is the point in the middle, which is the place where we all meet and we find a way now to move forward in a great way rather than humiliating, dominating, controlling. Someone posts something, you got all these people shaming people, guilting them, telling them that they're wrong. Let's take care of our senior citizens because they're the most vulnerable, and let's start to deal with everybody else. If you want to stay in, stay in. But don't tattle on people. Have anything you want to say before you?
I think I personally want to go outside and build up my immune system, because if this quarantine lasts until October, by the time we get outside again, it's going to be flu season. Like if you live your life in a bubble, you're not actually building up healthy, antibodies or, to fight any type of virus, like COVID or not.
Well, you know that because you work with kids.
I run a daycare, and I actually have a very high immune system for that same reason. Like, there is, to some extent, a very healthy reason why your body gets introduced to viruses and bacteria and learns how to fight them. But staying at home, closed up in a bubble, is not going to help your body be strong from a virus, bacteria.